everyone. I hope your conference has been going really well so far. Jordan and I are very excited to show you more about the world we get to play in every day as design leaders. And the name of this presentation is Design Thinking, Your Cheat Code to Decision Making. So who am I? Well, my name is Lydia Timlin-Broussard, and my background is a crossover between anthropology, entrepreneurship, and design. I have a master's in design ethnography, and my work as a product and service designer has allowed me to design for a number of the entertainment franchises you've seen on big screens, and maybe on television and gaming consoles as well. Now, I'm a lead strategic designer working primarily in energy and social impact businesses all over the world.
And I'm Jordan Hobson. So who is Jordan? I'm a marketer, I'm a researcher, and I'm a designer. From an educational standpoint, I have my undergrad business degree and my MBA, a concentration on marketing. I'm a researcher. I spent a good amount of my career working on the research side of advertising, working on brands like Levi's, Microsoft, Lucasfilms, Fox, just to name a few. And most recently, I'm a lead design strategist like Lydia. I've been working in the space the past 3.5 years, and I've launched ventures in the social impact, mobility, and technology services space. And throughout my career, Lydia and I, we've really tried to pursue design leadership. And that pursuit, it led us to our current employer, Boston Consulting Group Digital Ventures. If you're unfamiliar with the business, we're the innovation strategy arm of the management consulting firm, Boston Consulting Group. And we're specifically focused on creating and launching new ventures or product lines for businesses. So we work with Fortune 500 companies, and what's unique is it's a true partnership instead of the traditional client services model. And for you being someone that's working on the ground, you're hyper-focused on one project at a time. So it's pretty cool. So when I look back over my career and also Lydia's, we noticed that we had a ton in common. We both worked in startups. We both have a strong research background. And what we saw when we compared notes over our tenure was that there were some challenges that were faced being a double minority. So a person of color and being a designer. These are just some of the challenges that we faced, and they might be relevant for you as well. We were seen as executors versus decision-making partners on our projects. We weren't always involved in conversations when they were being had. We had minimal input over the overall trajectory of a project. We were people that underestimated our capabilities. And then lastly, we really had a limited support network, but that didn't stop us. So what we did is we continued our pursuit for design leadership, and that pursuit led us to a pretty cool tool that we're going to share with you today, design thinking. So whether you're a designer or you're a founder, these tools, they can empower you and the businesses that you're working on or trying to launch.
So today we'll be helping you explore what we like to term our kind of cheat code. And we'll be providing a few frameworks that could help you unlock your success in whatever kind of organization you're in. We'll discuss why design thinking is important, what workshop frameworks could help you succeed quickly, and what you'll need to know to execute and shine. And during this session, Jordan and I will also be in the chat answering your questions real time.
Yep. So if there are any other challenges that you're facing in addition to the ones that we shared, feel free to share them in the chat.
Absolutely. So let's get started with why this is important. A major component of our work as consultants is to lead teams through their first real try at building and designing a product from the ground up. And this can be scary work. From afar, it seems chaotic and challenging and unstructured. But there's a lot of potential to step into a leadership role within those kinds of environments, if you're prepared. We've seen design become a remarkable tool to add some of that structure and guidance, giving opportunities to determine and create the future. This work helps make clear value both internally and out in the world. Simply put, design thinking allows for us to participate in the conversation more often and build a seat at the table, a really good seat. Design thinking at its simplest can be summed up with a diagram referred to as a double diamond. Now, there's a phase of discovery and alignment, and then there's a phase of ideation and problem solving. Sometimes practitioners call these phases discover, define, develop, and deliver. And I'd love to know if anyone's heard of these phases before. Today, we'll be scratching the surface and giving you an opportunity to try on some tools for size. This is the beginning of your design story. And at the end of this presentation, we'll be offering resources if you want to learn more. The opportunities this process can offer are pretty massive. You'll learn to approach open challenges through inspiration and constraints, not just barriers. You'll be able to build empathy for your end user. And if you're a founder, this is a great way to continuously evolve your ideas, engage and inspire both your team and potential users at large. Instead of talking through one perfect solution, you'll be testing and learning what works in real time. And this process may feel messy, but there's a number of opportunities to co-create and align and bring your imagination directly into your work. It's iterative. You'll constantly be moving forward. We've found this process also catalyzes a lot of work. It energizes your teams and encourages taking individual opinions out of the equation. The entire team has a voice in the process, not just a senior decision maker trying to find the right solution and hand it down to a team to execute. Furthermore, this creates collaborative ownership and team cohesion pretty quickly because everyone's getting a chance to manage expectations and outcomes together. This is particularly handy if you want to be seen as more of a leader within your own right, because you will be opening the conversation to so many and providing some of that structure to be able to do the work. So now that you know a little bit more about the process, let's get right into it. We'll be presenting two frameworks today. The first is within a concept of team alignment, being able to get everyone on the same page. And the second is ideation and the act of brainstorming in a structured and generative way. We want to present these in a way that allow for you, even as a beginner, to facilitate conversations with your team and help drive towards decisions. You're going to need a few tools first. Now, there's digital whiteboard systems that we use quite a bit, like Miro, or maybe you've heard of Mural. And we've found that even something as simple as Easy Retro can kickstart conversations really easily. All of these tools have free trials, so you should be able to kind of pick one up, play with it, see if it works, and run with it. If you're in the real world, you'll need a few physical tools to mimic this experience. The first is going to be Post-its or other sticky notes. If you Google design thinking, you'll probably get lots of stock photography of people huddled around sticky notes. And really, there's no replacement for having each team member get a batch of Post-its and a marker, giving them the chance to get their ideas down and out of their heads very quickly. You can't do this work with just one pad of paper. So make sure that you get enough for everyone on your team to be able to have a voice. In a perfect world, you'll also have a whiteboard, or at least a large blank wall. You'll be putting these Post-its up and moving them around constantly. So giving yourself enough space to work is very important. And finally, you'll definitely need a timer. Taking stock of where you are in the process and being able to keep everyone moving forward is a core leadership skill in these workshops. Team alignment workshops work best when you need to get everyone on the same page. It's often something that happens at the very beginning of the design thinking process. Think about this as a way to start building the first steps to success for everyone involved in the team. This also helps ensure that from day one, everyone has a voice here, and it's not about hierarchy. If you're a founder, you can also use this at the beginning of your development cycle, and it will be able to help you tailor what your next steps will be and how you're going to continuously move forward. This workshop has three main components. And when I've run it, it takes around an hour and a half. That may feel like a lot, but it'll fly by really quickly, especially as you get people talking, get people out of their own heads and start coming together around a mission, which is the first step. After you've built your mission, you'll be brainstorming assumptions directly related to that mission. Some of the riskiest things that you need to build out or answer so that you can get to that mission. And after all of those are out on the table, you will be prioritizing all of those assumptions and those risks back to your mission to see which ones are really going to inhibit your success and burning those down quickly. So let's start with that mission statement. It's a clear and specific picture of what a successfully delivered team product would look like and why it's worth doing. This will cover who you're serving and why and how you plan on doing it. Now, I would love to know in the chat if anyone's really gone through a process like this at the beginning of their work. And if there's been any real ways that this has set you up for success. But your team will revisit your mission statement every now and then. So don't focus on perfection right now. You're really wanting to get to a good place where you can move forward very quickly. As an example, for a company that's interested in developing products to help people make hair regimens, based by science, a team could be dedicated to tools that help test the chemical balance in shampoo and conditioner. That team's mission could look like we give consumers insight around their hair through expert insight from stylists and chemists to help people make smarter decisions by providing tools to test the pH balance of their hair products. And keep in mind, this isn't a mission statement that's going on a website. This is something that you're going to be referring back to and refining as you go. I've found that the most successful way to get alignment on a mission statement is to take a few minutes, around 5, and have everyone write one out, share them back, and have a conversation around the themes of why we're here and what we're here to do. So again, that looks like 5 minutes of silent time, and then having that 10-minute conversation. And 10 minutes will usually suffice depending on the team. From there, team members can make assumptions on what the kind of work that will need to get done looks like. This could look like the kinds of questions they believe might help them reach the team mission if answered. And this is iterative as well, but it's best done if you again start with a few moments of silent time for everyone to write down a few assumptions before coming back to the group. In the context of our hair example, the team may believe that tests for shampoo and conditioner will have to be separate, or we'll have to work with the chemist to determine tests that are viable to run at home. Both of those are great assumptions, and they're great risks to talk about at the beginning of your journey together as a team. Once these assumptions are up on a wall, you can start grouping them together. Think about this as the first time you would be using those Post-it notes and those sticky notes in a way that required that reusable glue to come in. And so what that's going to look like is, hey, I see multiple people have mentioned something around use of a chemist. So I'm going to put those together in a little group, and I'm going to give that a name. This is going to take somewhere around 10 minutes as well, after everything's all out on the floor. Then, as a team, you'll be reflecting on the mission and assumptions you just grouped together. Some groups will be easy guesses and not have very much impact on driving the team to fulfilling their mission. Others, however, will be complex and carry a high level of certainty and a high level of impact. So an example of something that could be very high uncertainty and very high impact for our hair team could be around, hey, is there a large enough market that wants to know the pH balance of shampoo to be able to have a solution that tests here at home be viable? Is this something that will require labs or something else of that nature? And how can we understand that as quickly as possible? And so here, it's a huge risk to your mission. And finding that answer through something like market testing would be an immediate next step to get to this answer quickly. You'll need to spend a little bit of time talking through these assumption groupings, these clusters, to really be able to get to the marrow of which ones are the most pressing. The next steps are, thinking through how the team is going to take on that upper right quadrant and answer those questions quickly. These are the burning ones. This is the part that's really about kickstarting the team to move forward. And so again, this is about 10 minutes of conversation and really trying to hone people towards things that will answer questions around uncertainty and impact, not just their curiosity. So the next steps are pretty simple from here. It's about creating an in-depth plan for how the team will tackle that quadrant of high uncertainty and high impact questions or assumptions. For extra credit, you could also do an exercise around what the team or the product could look like in the future, really trying to get as many different ways that this could change things out on the table as well to inspire the team. The entire idea here is about trying to tangibly understand what impact looks like, and that's going to be different for everyone. And finally, most importantly, you need to document the work and close the feedback loop, which means, getting everything down on a few slides or an email that everyone can refer back towards over the course of the work that's being done. So now you've been aligned as a team and you've got your list of questions to go and chase down answers toward. So Jordan will take you through a framework that can help you take what you've learned and turn it into innovations on your product, good, or service idea.
Awesome. So now for our second workshop, ideation. So why should you use it? You should use it if you're trying to come up with new products, experiences, features, or even if you're trying to identify UX improvements. You can also use it to align and inspire your teams. I'd love to hear reasons why you would want to use ideation in the chat. So feel free to let us know. And when to use it, when you're trying to synthesize information, find new ways to solve real problems, or to ensure that the ideas that you're creating, they're actually user-led. So if we look back at that double diamond that Lydia talked about earlier, this typically happens at the beginning of the second diamond, ideation, because when you're coming up with ideas, you're starting to diverge and you have more ideas that are being surfaced. So the workshop itself, there are 4 simple steps that you've got to go through. First, you align on your framework, then you populate with frictions, then you reframe into how might we's, and I'll double click into what I mean in a couple slides. And then lastly, you ideate solutions. So going through these steps, it should take you roughly about an hour. So for the first step, aligning on a framework, you need to decide if you're going to do a customer journey or a user journey first for the framework. A user journey is one that's focused specifically on the touch points of your product and service with your user, whereas a customer journey, it's a little bit more expansive. So it takes into account those steps that happen before someone's actually using your product. Like if they're searching through different products that are out there or actually going through the process of purchasing. Then once you've aligned there, you want to fill in your journey steps. So if we go back to the shampoo example that Lydia talked about, and we're going with the idea that this is a customer journey, the first step, it might be discovery. Your user, they may be going and looking to see what are different options that are out there in the market. Your next step, it might be actually going to the store so they can go and they can look at products in person, evaluate, and so on and so forth. You really just need to hit the major milestones throughout the process. Once you've aligned on the steps, the third step is then to choose your stakeholders. Maybe it's people that you interviewed back in the discovery phase, or if you're thinking about them in aggregate, it's either persona or archetype. So once you've done those 3 steps, it should take you about 10 minutes to go through it. then it's time to move on to the next one. So the next step is friction mapping. So basically what you're doing is you're trying to populate all the frictions or pain points of the individual stakeholders that you have, but one at a time. So you should spend about 5 to 7 minutes on each stakeholder. And it's important that this is time boxed and you keep it on the shorter side so that you actually keep the momentum up so you can make it through all of the activities that you have planned. Then once you're complete, you move on to the next step. So now we're reframing those frictions into how might we's. So what we're doing is we're taking those pain points and we're reframing them into opportunities. So if we say, for example, back to the shampoo example, if someone's experiencing that their shampoo is stripping out the oils and leaving their scalp dry, the way that you'd rewrite it into a how might we is how might we help users hydrate their hair? So by rewriting it in this question format, you're not having it focused on one single option. It's being opened up to multiple opportunities. So when people are coming and they're thinking about ideas, they can think about different options. Like maybe it is an actual different shampoo that could solve the needs, or maybe it's something additional that needs to be added to the regimen. So when you're at this step, it's important to first cluster those frictions into themes, and then you can rewrite it into the how might we. This process should take about 10 to 15 minutes. So at this point, now you're ready to start ideating solutions. So you should time box this as well, 5 to 7 minutes for each stakeholder, and you can ideate across all of the how might we's for that individual stakeholder. And it's important that it's on the shorter side as well, because people, they need to be able to move through all the stakeholders, and having the time crunch, the pressure of time, it'll force you to pump out more ideas. So it's important that people are going for quantity of ideas, and it's okay if one's already been mentioned before. You just want to get it out and move on to the next idea. So the next steps here are you then cluster those ideas into themes or concepts. If you have additional time, you can do that in your workshop, but if not, it's okay. You can do it offline by yourself. And then what you want to do is you want to come back to the group. You want to have them vote on the ideas so you can start to converge on the solutions. It'll help you be able to prioritize what are the ones that you want to actually move forward with. And then lastly, document those ideas and close the feedback loop. People, they want to know, how are you actually going to action based off of the workshop that they just participated in? So lastly, we'll get into best practices that'll help you be that rock star when it comes to facilitation day. So there are 3 keys to a successful workshop. 1, planning, 2, facilitation, and 3, debriefs. So for the first one, planning your workshop, it's important for you to first confirm the objectives with the key stakeholders of your meeting that are actually going to action based off of the workshop that you've set. And then once you've done that, you need to understand the dynamics of the group and the setting that you're going to be working in. So it's important for you to understand, is this going to be in person? Is it going to be online? Is it going to be a hybrid of both? What meeting room are you going to be in? What's the technology setup like? And who are all the stakeholders that are going to be participating? So there are no surprises when it comes to facilitation day. Make sure that when you're creating your activities, whether you're leveraging the workshops that Lydia and I just walked through or creating your own, that you actually budget enough time to be able to go through all the proposed exercises. And then lastly, always make sure that you're prototyping your session ahead of time. You want to make sure that you're testing the technology and you're testing all of the activities that you have planned, because there's always going to be fine tuning that needs to be made. So when it comes to facilitating your workshop, make sure that you have notes on hand, time-stamped with the objectives of each activity. It'll help you on the day when it comes to facilitating, because you'll be able to keep track of time better. Also, don't be afraid to parking lot a disruptive person or conversation when you're actually facilitating a session. You want to make sure that everyone's on the same page and you're able to actually move through all the activities that you have planned. Make sure that you're paying attention to all the voices and the dynamics of who's talking, so that you can invite people that are less talkative into the conversation, because design thinking is about making sure that you have diverse sets of opinions and viewpoints when you're working through one of these workshops. Make sure that you always have a plan B or you're ready to pivot, because when it comes to the day that you're running a workshop, there are always going to be changes that are going to need to be made on the fly. And then lastly, start your session by setting ground rules. And I'll get into those in just a second. So for setting facilitation ground rules, always start a session by reading them aloud. Lydia and I, we've compiled this list of ground rules over the course of our career, and it's been tremendously helpful. So make sure that you tell everyone no criticism or analysis of the ideas or information. You want to make sure that you're creating a safe space so that people are actually contributing their ideas. Make sure that you say yes and, so that people aren't saying no and they're actually building on others' ideas. Make sure that you iterate, or that you say that there only needs to be one conversation at a time that needs to be happening. Stay on topic as well, because you only have a limited amount of time and you want to make sure that it's really productive. Tell people ahead of time that we're going to be moving fast, and it may feel uncomfortable because we're working in minutes, we're not working in days. And lastly, make sure that you tell people no phones, iPads, or laptops unless it's directly contributing to the workshop that you're running. You just want to minimize those distractions. So debriefing your workshop. You should always close out your session with next steps. People want to know how you're actually going to action based off the workshop that you led. Make sure that you're documenting and sharing outcomes from your workshop. People want to know that the time that they spent with you in a workshop, it was actually valuable. And if you document and share those outcomes, more than likely they'll participate again in the future. And then lastly, to be a rock star facilitator, make sure that you reflect on how you could have improved your session. Trust me, it'll help, and it's helped Lydia and I. Lastly, with some additional resources, with the time that we had with you today, we only touched 2 workshops, but design thinking is a very, very vast concept, and there are a lot of frameworks and tools. So we wanted to catalog some of the best in class resources that we have. So feel free to leverage these books and websites if you'd like to learn a little bit more about the theory or get exposure to other workshops that are out there.
So in closing, we hope that we've given you not only a team alignment framework and a frame for leading the team in ideation, but also a chance to raise your voice and participate in major decision-making processes. And we have a takeaway that we've just linked in the chat for all of you, so that you can always come back to it and think about how these frameworks can be applied in your circumstances. As we said before, try your hand at this stuff and take stock of what works and what doesn't. Reflection's a major part of design and also of leading in these kinds of situations. You'll have to pivot. That just makes you stronger. A core part of this journey to you becoming a leader is realizing that you are growing and that you're going to grow further as you go. So thank you for joining us to talk through what's been an opportunity to stand up and show up. And we're really excited to hear from you about how some of these frameworks could help you, and also how they may have helped you in the past. Let's keep the conversation going in the chat. And we're happy to talk more about design thinking frameworks, our own personal expertise and journeys, and some of the highs and lows of being in design leadership. All in all, we hope that this has given you quick hacks to create ownership, leverage new insights quickly, and become an important voice to decision making. All of this is here to help your work be more valuable and to help make you a superstar. Thank you so much.
Thank
Next
you.
slide.